Hello, and welcome to the best books of 2022. Hello, I'm Dawn, and welcome back to my channel. And today's video will be just like a lot of you guys are doing or watching, which is the top of 2022. There might be some HarperCollins books on here. I support the strike. Sorry about that. And there is a Coho book on here, and I recorded this before I knew her shenanigans. Back to the show. I saved this for last because I like to try to end the year with a book that has been critically deemed good or great or best. And so because my last book of the year, I'm usually pushing right up until the end of the year, which I did. I was still reading yesterday, which was December 31st. I have to wait to do my top 10 because of the last book that I read. Unfortunately, that book did not make my list. I will give it an honorable mention when I start my list, but it did not make my final list. So basically what I'm saying is I could have done this 2 weeks ago, but that's okay. I read 93 books this year, which is a lot for me. I usually am around the 75-ish range, and I read a lot of adult this year, which I usually read a lot of YA. If you're new here, hi. I am a teen librarian in a public library. I buy YA for my patrons, and so I read a lot of YA. And I've been trying to dip my toesies into adult fiction, and I have been enjoying it, I have to say. I'm not saying that I hate YA. I'm not sick of YA. YA is not perfect, but neither is adult. I'm just saying that I need to broaden my reading and to do some more adult fiction, and I did some adult fantasy and some adult mystery thrillers. And a couple of those made my list. All of the books on my list I gave a 4.0 or higher. I have not given a 5-star this year. Once again, I have given a 4.75, which I know it's stupid. Why not just give it a 5? I have my reasons. Calm down. And I will tell you when I get to that number 1 spot. But I have not given a 5. There will be no 5s on this list. And my list will be in order from least best to best. Least best sounds stupid, but you know what I mean. You know what I mean. I will give an honorary mention to Circe. Circe was the last book that I read of the year. This was the book that I saved all year because I was like, oh man, it won the Goodreads Choice Award, which means absolutely bullshit. But a lot of people love this book. Like, it's a TikTok sensation. Once again, sometimes that's bullshit. But you know, I'm like, hey, a lot of people like this book. I'm going to give it a try. A lot of people that I trust, a lot of booktubers that I watch and I trust liked this book. So I was like, I'm going to save this for the end of the year. And I'm going to probably give it a 4. I didn't hate it. I am not going to give a 4 review because that's not what you're here for. But it did not make my top 10. It just didn't. It barely squeaked off that list. But I don't know. Should I give her Song of Achilles a try? Let me know. Should I go for it? Let me know. I'll put this here. That's in the almost spot. Okay. Without further ado, let's get started with Dawn, aka the Criticizer Books, top 10 of 2022. By the way, I just wanted to say, I forgot to say this. I actually, did I get this book? Yes. By the way, I would like to say that I have a series where I go to library book sales, library bookstores, and thrift stores where I try to find a bargain because I'm kind of cheap and I don't want to pay a full price, especially for adult books. Adult books are expensive. Oh my God. This would have been like $28 at the bookstore. Whew. I try to find a bargain, and I found this book. It is a hardcover. It is brand new. It looks like it has a couple of little water spots, but $3 at a library book sale. So my point is, A, check out my series where I do some bargain hunting, and B, Try your library book sales. Sometimes libraries have bookstores. Try those. They're not always discarded old library books. Sometimes there are books that are donated or thrifted. Okay. And now it's time for the Criticizer of Books Top 10 of 2022. Number 10 is Good Girl's Guide to Murder, Book 1 and Book 2. I have not gotten to Book 3. I had planned to get to do... Okay, start that over. Number 10 is The Good Girl's Guide to Murder, Book 1 and Book 2. I did not get to Book 3. I was going to read it, but then I read Circe instead. And I'm not saying it was a mistake or anything, but I'll probably get to that next. That might be, the Book 3 might be the first book. Book 3 might be the first book of 2023. I really try to start the year off with a good book because I don't want to doom the year with a bad book. And so because I really like the Good Girls Guide series, I like the writing style, I like Holly Jackson, I will probably start 2023 with Good Girls Guide to Murder, Book 3. I don't know the name of that book. As Good as Dead or something like that. But I am not going to say what these books are about. Most of you guys know what all these books are about. I'm not reading anything like crazy and like different and weird that you're not going to know. But I guess I should say very briefly, otherwise why would you watch a book video? Okay. Good Girl's Guide to Murder is essentially about a young girl named Pippa. She is a high school senior and she is a murder mystery enthusiast. And she is trying to solve, in the first book, the murder mystery that had plagued her town for 5 years. And in the second book, there is another murder mystery. And then I'm going to assume there's a different mystery in the third book. So she's a teenage sleuth, if you will. I like these books because the pacing is done very well. Now, this is YA, and so teen books need to move. They need to be, they need to have plot to keep teens engaged. And so this book moves quite well for a murder mystery. It does a lot of really good things. It's very logical. It makes sense. Disclaimer, I watch a lot of true crime fiction, documentaries, and like the ID channel. So I could have been a detective had I not been a librarian. I felt like I probably could have been in law enforcement, specifically a detective, because I feel like I have a good eye for details. And so, and I have been reading a lot of murder mysteries, and man, I have been picking apart like, that's bullshit, that don't make sense, that's not realistic. But this book didn't do that. I felt like for the most part, it was realistic, except for the fact that it's a 17-year-old trying to solve a 5-year murder suicide. Besides that, it was quite realistic. It was good. I liked Pippa as a main character. The diversity, you know, felt a little box checky, but that's fine. It was not one of those books where the killer just kind of comes out of nowhere, or the killer, we only meet them one time, or you never saw it coming. Like, she does give you clues, and if you're paying attention, you will notice the discrepancies and you can figure it out. And I like the type of murder mystery where I am able to figure it out as I am reading. I don't like murder mysteries where I am just an observer along for the ride. So I do really enjoy those books. If you like true crime fiction, I do highly recommend them, even if you are an adult and you're like, YA? No, these are really good true crime fiction books for a YA fiction book. Next, number 9. Oh shit. Okay, yeah. Number 9 is The Master of Jen. I don't know the author's name. I forgot to write it down, and it's up here. It's up here. I forgot. But this book is set in Cairo, and I want to say like early 1900s. It is also fantasy / steampunk. And in this world, we have our main character. I can't remember anybody's name. I'm so sorry. I am horrible. Sorry. I had not planned on doing overviews. Anyway, it's about a young woman, and she is in the it's about a young woman who is a part of a department who investigates antiquities. And the book starts off where we have this group of men, wealthy white men, who want all power, and they summon this djinn, and the djinn is like, sorry, gotta kill you guys and take power for myself. And so the main character is trying to solve what happened with these men and who his actual djinn is, because they think it's a human. They don't think it's an actual djinn. This book was fantastic. It was funny. I liked the main character. She was a woman in a man's world, and she wasn't taking shit from nobody. There were also themes of other like feminism topics, such as, for example, she had an intern or like a trainee, and it was also a young woman, and she was kind of treating her badly, and the intern is like, why are you treating me like these men do? Like, I look up to you, what's wrong with you? And then she's kind of like, oh yeah, you're right, I'm treating you shitty, I'm sorry. And so they band together and they bring down the patriarchy and they find the real villain. And it was just really interesting as far as cultural. We're in Cairo, and we have the whole world of jinns, which I always find interesting. And though it was just fun, it was fun. I do not know when the next book is coming out. Usually on Goodreads, it'll give like an expected publication date. I have not seen it. I was doing research trying to find out when book 2. I feel like there needs to be a book 2. This book won a lot of awards. It's got a lot of critically acclaimed success. And so I'm excited. Hopefully he does write a book 2, because I really did enjoy that book. If you like fantasy, Master of Jinn, read it. Next. Number 8 is The Paris Apartment by Lucy Foley. A lot of people did not like this book. I did. This is about, I cannot remember anybody's name. I think her name is Jess. I'm notorious for not remembering characters' names. Sorry. Jess has to escape England because she has been involved in some shenanigans. And so she has decided to go and live with her brother in Paris. He's like, fine, come on. When she gets there, he is nowhere to be seen. He has gone missing. And there are a group of suspects. And if you've ever read a Lucy Foley book, you know that she always has kind of this list of suspects. And in true Agatha Christie fashion, you have like six suspects, and you have to try and figure out who the killer is and their motive. And so I enjoy that. Once again, I enjoy the type of mystery books where I am giving clues as I read, and I can try and solve the murder mystery. And Lucy Foley very much so writes like that, and I really do enjoy it. She also usually has really good characters. This book is no exception, and her characters are quite relatable because they're either you, the reader, or it's someone you know, and it's usually somebody shitty that you know, like someone who is like obsessed with like image, someone who's just a mean girl, or a douche guy, or just somebody that you know, and you're just like, God, I can't stand that person. And you see them in a book, and it just hooks you, because you're like, ooh, that's Stacy. She get on my damn nerves. That's her. So I really enjoy her character development. This book was no exception. One of the really good characters in the book was Ben. He was the brother that went missing. He wasn't even on the page, and he was developed very well. So I really did enjoy the book. I did have an issue with the side story and how it ended, because I was like, that's not realistic. But other than that, I had a good time reading it. It kind of reminded me of Rear Window by Alfred Hitchcock, if you've ever seen that movie. It's the guy who's and so many TV shows like have these little like episodes where it's a person, they are paralyzed, and they have their window and their binoculars, and they're paying attention to their neighbors, and they see their neighbors doing some like murderous stuff, and they kind of get invested, and they try to solve the crime while they're stuck paralyzed in their chair because they broke a limb or something. So it's that thing. It kind of felt like that to me anyway, because they kind of lived in an apartment building in a kind of like a courtyard situation. So I also enjoyed that, but I do recommend it. Lucy Foley's writing is a hit or miss for some people. I am in that camp where I'm like, some of her books I really like, some of them are just kind of okay. This book was one of my favorites. I've read 3 of them. This one was one of my favorites. Next, number 7. Number 7 is Honey and Spice by Bolu Babalulo. Okay. The next is Honey and Spice by Bolu Babalola. I read this a couple weeks ago. This was another book where I was like, okay, I'm going to wait to do my countdown, because I've heard really good things about this book, and I want to see if this is going to make my list, and it did. This is about Kiki, and Kiki is a Nigerian immigrant. I don't know if she's an immigrant or if her parents are immigrants. Anyway, they live in England, and she goes to university, and she's got a guy. She's experienced a lot of trauma, and she's got her walls up. And she also does not trust men. She has a radio show at the school. It's kind of like a podcast, but like university format, because a lot of universities, and mine did, has a radio station, a local radio station, and you can call in and you can win prizes and all that stuff. And so she has a radio show where she is telling women how to take back their power and not get consumed by toxic men. And so she's built this community of women who are like, hell yeah, I'm not gonna take this shit anymore. And meanwhile, there's a new guy in town. He's also Nigerian, and he has got the ladies all a tizzy. And she's like, whoa, ladies, I thought we talked about this. We talked about not letting men treat us like shit. And they're like, oh, you're right. However, she has this other guy who she's just banging, and he's being a real douche, and she's trying to like, get away from me, man. I do not like you like that. But he will not take no for an answer. Meanwhile, she sees new dude across the way, and she's like, okay, I'm going to like walk away from him. She locks eyes with new dude, and she's like, I'm going to kiss him to piss this other guy off. And they become friends, and they have a fake dating relationship. So this is a fake dating trope, which I am totally fine with the fake dating trope. I do not like romance books. I hate them because it's always women or men, doesn't matter which character, making horribly unrealistic mistakes. There's always some ridiculous miscommunication trope, which I hate. Sometimes it has that shitty Hallmark slamp, those Hallmark movies. I fucking hate those. Like, I just don't like romance because to me, they're just unrealistic. And I don't get pleasure out of them. However, I did get pleasure out of this book. I really did like this book because this character, Kiki, she really grew. Like, she had her walls up. She did not like working with people. She did not like having a group of friends. She did not like having a boyfriend. And there were reasons for everything. And you slowly start to see why. And it totally makes sense. And then as the book progresses, her walls come down. She starts to trust people, and you see it, and it's great. Her growth is great. Her relationship with the new guy, I can't remember his name. Oh, Malachi. Her relationship with Malachi, and this is another thing I hate about romance, is that, I don't know, I'm so jaded with men. Malachi was a little too good to be true. You know what I mean? But with fantasy, sometimes you have to suspend belief. Same as with romance. I hate to say it, but sometimes you have to suspend belief and believe that this man is just perfection. But I liked Kiki and Malachi together. I thought their relationship was great. The communication was fantastic. When he fucked up, she called him out on it, and he was like, you're right. When she fucked up, he called her out on it, and she's like, you're right. Like, they talked. She had friends, and they talked. And it also sheds a light on Nigerian culture, which I'm not too familiar with. I'm not Nigerian. I don't really know a lot of Nigerians. And so it does kind of shed a light on their culture and how young people have to deal with their parents, like, really pressuring them with they want them to be in a specific job field, yet they want to be more in the arts, and how they're dealing with that. And how they are dealing with being a minority on a PWI, which stands for predominantly white institution, and how they're dealing with racism and everything. So it's just got a whole bunch of stuff. The only thing I did not like was her friend. Her friend was annoying as fuck. Otherwise, I thought this book was great. I do highly recommend it if you like romance. And please, if you are a white person watching this, do not judge a book because there are people of color in the book and you think you cannot relate. We're all humans. We're all people. We all deal with the same shit. Just because somebody's brown doesn't mean what they're dealing with is different from you and that you can't relate to them, especially if you are a fantasy reader. If you can read a book about dragons and demons and gods and fairies, you can read a book with some brown people and black people in it. Come on, guys. It's really, if you like romance, all the little romances that are really popping right now, all the Colleen Hoover books, all of the love hypotheses books, you know, the books that have the really bright covers and the couple on the cover. If you are into that type of romance, you will enjoy this book. It is a really good book. Highly recommend it. Next, number 6. Speaking of Colleen Hoover, it is Verity by Colleen Hoover. This is the first and probably last Colleen Hoover book I will ever read. I know you're like, excuse me, ma'am, you put in number 6. Yes, I did. However, I also said I don't like romance, and that's what she writes. I read this one because it was a murder mystery or a thriller, mystery thriller. I have a podcast with my friend Ashley, and you can find it anywhere you get your podcast. It's called The Novel Universe, and Ashley chose this book because we podcast like really buzzy popular books. And Verity, we chose Verity because neither one of us really like romance, and so we're like, okay, we don't want to do It Ends With Us because we don't really want to read a romance, but let's do Verity because we both like thriller mysteries. And boy, was I shocked. I was going into this book thinking, I'm not gonna like this author. I'm one of those people where I'm kind of a oxymoron. Like, I suffer from FOMO. I really do. So technically I should be all over Coho books because, you know, everybody's reading them. However, if something, anything, it doesn't matter what it is, if it is overhyped, I just think that it is overhyped and it's really not as good as everyone is making it out to be. And this also includes Colleen Hoover. So I expected her to be kind of just a poor writer, just really on the nose writing, just not very good with characters or theme or anything. Like, I really enjoy those types of things when I read. But from the first chapter, I was engaged. I was like, oh. I mean, some of the quotes that came out of this woman's mouth, I was like, wow, that is amazing. That is deep. This writing is fantastic. Like, I really did enjoy her writing style and her character development and what she leaves out and allows the reader to infer. I mean, the whole book, she doesn't really tell you, at least I don't think. If she did say what really happened, I missed it. So I felt like I was able to draw my own conclusion. And when I can do that, it makes me happy because I picked the ending I wanted to be. So I just thought everything was great. I thought all the characters were great. I thought the mystery element was great. The pacing was pretty good. The only issue I had was with the main character. Was her name Lowen? I can't remember the main character. Colleen was trying to set her up as an unreliable narrator. However, the way she did it, she gave her some kind of like sleep disorder, some kind of sleepwalking disorder, which is supposed to make her not believe what she sees. I thought that was a little lame. Like, that was my only issue, was that. Otherwise, I enjoyed it a lot. I had a great time. And if you like thriller mystery and you're like romance, no thank you. I'm not reading no Colleen Hoover book, but you really like thriller mystery, I say read Verity. I had a good time reading it. It was pretty good. Next, number 5. I did not write any author's name down. What the hell, Dawn? Sea of Tranquility by Emily St. Mandel. I don't know. It's right here. Sea of Tranquility is science fiction, and it's going to be hard for me to describe this book. Okay. So it takes place on 3 different, I get century and decade mixed up. So, okay, so there's a setting in 1918 with the Spanish flu. There's a setting in 2020 with COVID-19. And there's a setting in like 2060 or 2260 or whatever, and it's on a different planet. That's where the science fiction part comes in, where we have colonized, I want to say Mars. I'm not sure what planet we colonized. But there's a new pandemic on that new planet. And so there are 3 different characters dealing with the pandemic situation, and they all have witnessed a weird anomaly. And there is a guy who's a time traveler who goes all 3 locations to interview people to try and figure out what this strange anomaly was. That wasn't as hard as I thought. Okay, this book is up my jam. Up my jam? I don't know what that means. This book is my jam. I like books like this. I like books where you really have to think and be like, what in the hell is this author trying to say? And man, did I have to think about this book. Even as I finished, I was like, I am not quite sure what I was supposed to get out of this book, because it didn't go where I thought it was going to go. And that's not the author's fault. That's just my fault. And so I can't just say, ugh, that book sucked because I wanted to do this. No, that's not how books work. The author has you going a certain way for a reason, especially if they're a good author, which I consider her to be a good author. And although it wasn't where I wanted to go, where she took it was good too. I was kind of confused about what I was supposed to get out of it. But in the end, I did get what she wanted me to get out of it, which was, and this is not a big spoiler, but essentially, even though time passes and we as humans evolve and become hopefully smarter, we still cannot figure out a pandemic. Time does not change that much. From 1918 to 2262 or whatever it was, we are still dealing with pandemic bullshit. Even though time has passed, we have colonized the moon. I think it was the moon. We have colonized the moon. We can travel planet to planet, like getting on an airplane. Like, we've done so many great things, so many advances. However, pandemic. I enjoyed it. If you like science fiction, if you like time travel, if you like a very thematic book, highly recommend Sea of Tranquility. Next, number 4. Number 4 is The Black Sun by Rebecca Roanhorse. Now, I'm going to have a difficult time explaining this book. All right, so we have a main character. This book is fantasy. It is adult. And our main character is Narampo. We have a couple of main characters. Narampo is an oracle, I believe she is. And she basically reads the stars and gives people what's going to happen to them in their life based on stars. So kind of like an astrologer. However, this art is dying out. People are not really buying into the astrology anymore. And so therefore, Namparo and her people and what they do are also becoming irrelevant. And so she wants them to be relevant again. So she makes them go on a tour, kind of like what the monarchy does. You know, they get in their car and they wave, and the people come and they stand in the cold and they wave to them as they go by, just so that they can remind people we're still here. Hello. However, there has been a prophecy where Narampo has to die. And so another main character, Serapio, has been prophesied to kill her. And then there's another main character who is taking Serapio to kill Namparo. However, they form a relationship. Sound great? It was. That's why it's number 4. It had a new plot that I have never read before. I have never read anything like this before. Yes, I have read the story where someone is prophesied to kill another person, blah, blah, blah. I have read that. However, in almost every book, and I could say with the exception of the Iron Widow, they usually fall in love. They are prophesied, or they have been commissioned to go and kill this person. And then instead of doing what they're trained and told and paid to do, they fall in love with them. I fucking hate that trope. I don't ever want to read it again. Iron Widow didn't do that, and I appreciated that. Was one thing I really liked about that book. We're not here to talk about the Iron Widow. We're here to talk about Black Sun. Black Sun also doesn't do that. Thank you. She introduced another character for the assassinator, I don't know if that's a word, to fall in love with, and not the assassinatee. So the whole, that plot was just great. The characters were great. I liked Serapio. I liked Namparo. They were both good. And I can't remember Ziala or something like that was the girl that was transporting Serapio to kill Namparo. I liked her too. They all had their own storylines and what they were dealing with. And then, of course, it's one of those books where they're all in different locations and they come together at the winter solstice to do whatever he was supposed to do. I'm not going to tell you if he does it or not. But just a great story, paced great, characters were great, just an inventive storyline. I think that Rebecca Ronhorst, one thing that she has going for her is that she is creative. I read a lot of fantasy, folks, and many of you do too. And sometimes these fantasy books can be redundant and repetitive, and you're like, I really wish I could find something else. And when you do, you hold on it for dear life. And I held on it, The Black Sun, for dear life. Book 2 sucked ass, but we're not here to talk about book 2. Next, number 3. All My Rage by Sabaa Tahir. This is YA, and this is contemporary. Once again, fantasy reader. Many of you may be fantasy readers. And Sabaa is known for And Burn the Ashes, which is fantasy. So for her to do a complete 180 and write contemporary, and when I say contemporary, I mean dark, trauma, death, abuse, heavy themes. It is weird. Usually authors kind of stay in their own genre lane. They don't go too far out. And she did, and I thought she did a great job. This book is about, once again, I did not remember their names. Shit. This book is about 2 South Asian teens. I believe they are first-generation Americans. And our main character, he's a boy. The girl's name is Nora. I do know that. The main character, he is... his mother has passed away, and his father has taken to alcohol. He can't cope, but they own a hotel, and the father is just not doing anything, and the son has to do everything. And he's dealing with that. He's also dealing with his own trauma. His best friend, Nora, they had a falling out. Nora is dealing with her uncle, who's very abusive, and, you know, but she loves her uncle because he rescued her from Pakistan. Her whole family died in Pakistan. I think it was an earthquake or something, and he rescued her. And so she is justifying his abuse by the fact that he rescued her. And so the two of them are trying to just deal with their trauma. And man, when I tell you, it is sad. It is sad. There's nothing good about this. There are no happy endings here. It is not happy. There are no laughs and giggles and fun family dinners. It is death and tears and trauma and abuse and sadness. It's sad. However, it's beautifully written. Sabaa is a very good writer. Beautifully written. There were some quotes in this book where I was just like, oh God, just in tears. So if you want a really good cry and you want to read about teens who are going through some real shit, All My Rage by Sabaa Tahir. Next, number 2. This is a shocker for me for number 2. I know. And you'll be too. You'll be like, what? This is number 2? This is number 2. Fix this. Okay. Number 2 is 5 Survive by Holly Jackson. I know. This is YA. This is in the true crime fiction genre. So this story is about Red. Red is also going through some trauma. Her mother was a cop and she passed away in the line of duty. Once again, her father is an alcoholic. He can't even take care of the family. He's just out of it. And it's up to Red to kind of take care of the family. Her best friend, I believe her name was Madison, is like, hey, let's go on spring break. Let's get a break. We are seniors. You deserve a break. I deserve a break. Let's go. So they all get into an RV. There's a couple of other teens. And then there's Madison's older brother, and he's in college, and his girlfriend. And they are the adults in the situation. And they take an RV. I believe they're going to Florida for a spring break fun when they have a detour. And then a sniper starts shooting at them and says, one of you has a really big secret. And if you do not tell me, I'm going to start killing mofos. And so they have to come up with a plan. So it's really about a 6, because it's called 5 Survive. One of them dies. It's in the title. 6 young people, all under the age of 20, 21, who are in this dire situation, very high stakes situation. All of them has secrets. Nobody wants to tell their secret, but they have to, because they have to figure out what the sniper wants so that they can escape. And it's all tense. It's all intense. And there is one character who is a mega douche on the bus, on the RV. And we have Red, who is dealing with her trauma, and she can't focus, and she's dealing with a lot of insecurities. and there's like a bully situation and how people react to a bully, which I thought was done really well. And then we find out the secret, and it totally makes sense. And you're like, oh my. So just like, once again, with true crime, I'm always just like, I call bullshit on that. That wouldn't really happen. But I never did that in this book. I'm like, all of this is totally plausible. It all makes sense. It was paced beautifully. The characters were great. This is a fantastic discussion book. Even if you're an adult and you have an adult book club, this is a fantastic book discussion about trauma and being placed in a very small space and how people react when someone is trying to kill you, and just human behavior in general. If you like human behavior, this is a really good book for you, because it is just a study in human behavior, and it was great. Highly recommend. I think I gave it a 4. I don't think I gave it a 4.5, but I got very close to 4.5. Very, very good. This was way better than Good Girl's Guide to Murder. Way better. And I think Holly Jackson is a fantastic writer, and she should probably start writing some adult so that she can really elevate her storytelling. All right. You probably have guessed what my number 1 is, because it is a lot of people's number 1s either this year or last year. I am one of those people. Like I said, I suffer from FOMO, and I had to read the TikTok sensation, The Atlas 6. Wait a minute, I actually have the book. The Atlas 6 by Olivia Blake. I was one of those people who loved it. I gave this book a 4.75, not quite a 5. I know why, but anyway, so this is science fiction, and it is about 6 young people who have been recruited to join this secret society, and if they can make it a whole year, they will have all the knowledge, all the power, all the money they could ever imagine. And all 6 of these teens, they're not teens, they're college students, they have power. They all have a unique power. I do not like plot. I hate a plot-driven book. I prefer a character-driven book. And this is so character-driven, it is disgusting. It is all about the characters. It is all about human behavior, and I fucking loved it. That's why I gave this book a 4.75. These characters are great, and there are some characters in here that I have never read in my life. If you've read this book, my favorite was Parisa and Libby. My favorite. I love the way people reacted towards them. I love the way they react towards each other and to other people, and just everything. It was all great. I enjoyed this book a lot. I can't say too much because it is full of spoilers. But like I said, it is just about people who, they want power. And some of them already have power. And they're here. They've joined this society. This man was really mysterious. He was like, hey. You want all the power in the world? All the knowledge in the world? Come on. And they're just like, okay. They don't really know anything about it. It's a secret society. They're just like, sure. And when they get there and they learn the circumstances, at any moment they could leave. But they're like, man, but I really want that power he promised me. And I love it. They all have power. Like, some of them can read minds. Some of them are, there's one that is an empath, and he can like influence you, even though he's an empath. We have people who can, I'm not really good at this stuff. There's a lot of quantum physics in this book, which I could give a shit about, but it was very interesting the way she wrote it. It is very clear that Olivia Blake is an intellect, and she really liked to let the reader know. And that was my issue with the book. It was too much of this, a little too much of this. There were moments where I was like, you know, that could have been summed up a lot shorter. Or do we need that extra conversation about the conversation we already had in the kitchen? Do we need to have that same conversation in the living room? It was just a lot of pretentious writing. But other than that, this book was fucking fabulous. I also read book 2. I loved that as well. Not as much as book 1. But I like the Alice Paradox. I thought it was a great book too. I highly recommend this series. If you like character-driven science fiction And when I say character, I mean it's all character, baby. It ain't no plot in this book. I think there's one plot point, one plot moment in this book. Otherwise, it is all them standing around talking. Standing around talking. Loved it. The Atlas 6. Number 1. All right. Thank you for joining me for top 10 of 2022. I had a great reading year. Well, it was okay. I don't like most books, so I probably shouldn't say that. That's kind of a lie. But I had a good reading year. I hope you enjoyed your reading year. Tell me down below what your number 1 is, and I probably will be like, wow, that's cool. I'm gonna say that again. Tell me down below what your number 1 is. I really like to know what people are reading and what you're enjoying. Thank you for joining me, and I'll catch you in the next, what is this called? Countdown. Thank you for joining me, and I'll catch you in the next countdown. Bye-bye.